So as a thought experiment, let's take process completely out of the picture. There's no process. We have 100 developers on a project. So what happens when we have 100 developers on a project with no process? Well, question number one is, what are they working on? Do the developers get to decide what they're working on? If the developers decide what they're working on, I might go talk to a random developer and say, hey, what are you working on? I was like, well, I'm upgrading our platform to the latest versions of this library, this library, this library. You're like, oh, great. That sounds like an important thing. How long will it take? Oh, it'll take about 2 months. And all of a sudden you're asking your questions, well, like, isn't there something more important we could be doing with those 2 months than just upgrading our libraries? Are we delivering any value to the customer? So that's one thing that might happen. You might have some key resource who's working on the project, and this key resource is 100 people, 90 people have to ask some questions. All of a sudden that developer is working on something, and all of a sudden, interruption. Hey, I need help to work on this thing. Can you come help me for a second? Developer is a nice guy. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go help you. And then all of a sudden, while he's helping this other person, another interruption. Hey, I need help on this thing. Can you come help me with this? And all of a sudden we have like interruption inception, right? It's like interruption, interruption, interruption. I'm getting interrupted while I'm interrupted, right? It's like one of those things where that developer can never actually sit down and do his work because work is coming in, interrupting the work that's already in progress, right? And that violates something in Kanban we call work in progress. You want to limit the work in progress, and so if a developer has started something, it's interrupted doing something else, now you got like 4 or 5 things in progress, and all of a sudden you can't deliver anything. And so you look at that picture of just people, no process, obviously that's not going to work, right? People, individuals can't take complex requirements and break them down into priorities. If you have 100 developers who all have their own picture of what the priorities are, you're going to have 100 different views of what should be worked on at any given time, right? So we need some kind of process. That's very obvious. Let's go to the other side of the equation and say, let's not even care about people. Let's say we figured out some golden process, which means I can slot any developer into any seat in any role in the project, and they'll just know what to do. And I won't have to worry about what developers. I can just hire the cheapest developer on the street, and all of a sudden we're making tons of money because we got developers, we got a process that we get the most out of every single developer, and we can deliver software with the cheapest resource available. Well, obviously I'm going down a road that's not going to work for a lot of people. And what you find when you do that is like, okay, there is a lot of value to the individuals doing the knowledge work, right? This isn't like a factory line where it's unskilled labor. This is very skilled labor. This is very hard to kind of come up with complex abstractions and solve problems in the software world. So you can't just take the process, make the most perfect process where you're going to slot anybody, put them in a seat and say, okay, take this thing, make it into this thing, and ship it, right? So we're looking at both sides and we're saying, okay, at the extreme of process, people don't matter, that doesn't work. At the extreme of people are the most important thing, we don't need a process, that doesn't work. So we got to find some balance. And where does that balance, what does that achieve? What does that balance of process and people actually achieve? And why is that balance, when that balance is disturbed, why do developers say people over process? Why do they say, we're not valuing people over process here? And I think the key thing, when we look at Agile, what are the things that we're trying to achieve with Agile? We're trying to say, one, we want to find a way for developers to deliver the most value, feel fulfilled in delivering that value to the customer as efficiently as possible, right? We're not trying to maximize the efficiency of the development process, but we're trying to give developers the freedom to do good work and deliver that without interruption, right? So our process does a couple things. One, we got to figure out what the priorities are. What is the most important thing to work on? Sort that out. And then we need to protect our developer. We need to protect the people actually doing the work from interruption, right? So somehow they start work and they can complete that work without interruption. If I start working on a feature, I need to complete that feature before I move on to something else, right? If I start that feature and then all of a sudden I'm interrupted, I have to go do a support issue, all of a sudden that feature is just sitting and I could be interrupted indefinitely. So our process needs to protect the developers, the people doing the work, from constant interruptions, from prioritization, micromanagement, and we need to give them time, okay? So these are the things that the process needs to protect.